What's up? You are now listening to Americanized, a storytelling podcast where you'll hear from eclectic first and second generation Americans share their stories and real life experiences as children of immigrants.
Welcome to the very first episode of the In the Kitchen series, where the stories simmer slowly, the culture is rich, and the roots run deep. I'm your host, Roslyn, and I'm so excited to bring you this series. Because if you're a first-generation American or the child of immigrants, you know that the kitchen is never just a kitchen. It's a meeting place, it's a classroom, a memory vault, sometimes it's a battleground or a safe place. Americanize is about us, the ones navigating our hyphenated identities, the ones translating not just words, but entire worlds. In this series, we'll sit down and talk about the experiences that occur in our first-generation kitchens. We'll talk food, traditions, routines, the little kitchen courts that we have, and our habits. Today, I want to talk about rice. Yes, and it is such a staple in our lives and in our kitchens and on our stoves and on our dining tables. Man, I love rice, and as long as I've lived at home with my parents, there has always been rice, no matter what. It's either in that large 25-pound red elephant rice bag. If you know what I'm talking about, you know exactly what I mean. Usually stored in a bottom cabinet with a cup in it for easy scooping, cup in the bag. I remember driving to like a Super 88 market specifically to get these rice bags, the white jasmine rice, because that's what we used. It's either in the bag, in the cabinet, on the stove, or the cooked rice is in the fridge, or it's on your plate. There was always rice in the first generation American household, in my experience. Rice was essential and pretty much a part of every meal. And if it wasn't rice, it was futu or fufu or racheke. And right next to the pot of rice cooking on the stove was a pot of sauce to eat with the rice. That's the thing. Everything goes with white rice, and I don't ever really remember getting tired of eating rice. I feel like, it was just part of the meal. Eating rice was an expectation of living in an African household. It was just there, part of the meal, part of the culture, an expectation. And I just don't think I ever got tired of eating rice. And I mean, in our culture in Ivory Coast, we do have variations of rice too. I mean, it's not just plain cooked rice all the time. We do have this meal called bakasho. Oh, I just said that so weird. It's called bakasho. And it's basically this rice porridge. And it definitely, sorry, Mom, it was definitely not my favorite meal because of the texture. I don't like soggy. I didn't like how the rice was like overcooked. It's like a sweet rice porridge that we usually would eat for breakfast. So sometimes my mom would cook it in milk and then add sugar, or just cook it in water and add sugar to it so it was nice and sweet. And because of the texture, it was not my favorite thing. But that's like one variation of rice that we have in Ivorian culture. And honestly, it wasn't really until college, which is kind of odd and a super late time, it wasn't really until college that I started to cook my own rice and learned how to cook it and doing the 1-to-1 ratio and really mastering how to cook rice. I remember in college, my friend, who was also my roommate, who is also first generation Vietnamese American, we would cook rice and we made this big bowl of rice to eat like throughout the week just as kind of a loosely meal prep, but I think because probably in her household she also just always had rice in her household, and I always had rice in my household. So I think naturally we just thought, let's just make this big thing of rice to keep in the fridge. And that thing got moldy real quick. We were not eating that rice regularly enough for it to like not get moldy. That thing, I don't even know how long it was in the fridge for, but we were trying to keep up, I think, with our culture and our traditions and our culture's foods. And we tried to do the rice thing, and we we didn't fail. We did cook the rice successfully, but the rice didn't last as long. And I never, ever, ever have seen moldy rice before that time. So I was like, yeah, we're not gonna do that again. But I also tried to like carry this practice of always having rice in the household or whatever living arrangement into my marriage, and that also failed at that. Not because I made moldy rice or the rice turned moldy, but because that's just not how we did our meals and our routines. I remember probably like a few months or so, weeks or months into, or maybe weeks, it was early on, into our marriage, I was trying to be, the wife who cooks, and that's not who I ended up being, but I made rice just to have in the kitchen, just to have it in the fridge whenever we needed a little something, something to eat. And I remember my husband Parker was like, what is this? What is this for? Like, what's our plan with this big thing of rice that you just made? Like, why did you make it, essentially? And it was at that moment that I realized I don't need to have a pot of rice always cooking on the stove like my mom did. Or I don't need to ensure that I have a big thing of rice in my fridge. Maybe this will change once kids get in the picture. Then maybe it'll be essential to always have rice on the stove or rice on the fridge or buy the big 25-pound red elephant bag of rice. But as of right now, we just do things differently. So I just thought that was funny that I've kind of thought I could carry on this little tradition, this practice, this ritual, I guess, but it not being quite as essential as I thought it was. We also don't eat a lot of rice in general. So at the moment, rice is not as essential as it was growing up in an African household. As a married adult, living on my own, every now and then I do like a small bowl of plain white rice. I feel like there is something really nostalgic and just yummy about freshly cooked white rice. So the freshly steamed white rice, the first bite, the warmth, there's something about it. Now, the only times that I eat white rice is when I visit my parents or if I'm at some type of party, like, or if I go to restaurants and there's like a side or it's part of the meal. And if I do cook rice, it's brown rice. So I've transitioned from white rice to brown rice, and I now use a rice cooker. So growing up at home, my mom would always, and she hasn't transitioned to a rice cooker, she always cooks in a pot, like a big pot. She would put the rice in there, put the water in there, and then she'd boil it and keep it on low and then cover it up. And that's how she's always done it, and that's how she does it now, and I think that's how she'll always do it. I don't think she's on that rice cooker bandwagon yet, but that's how I learned to cook rice, and now I use a rice cooker. Right now, I don't eat white rice on a regular like I did growing up, and that's okay. That's something that at the moment is not being carried on, but maybe one day I'll circle back to it just because it's so easy, it's really filling, and you can eat it with anything. Don't know if it's really good for you, but it was such a staple in my household. Was rice a staple in your household growing up or currently? What's your experience with rice? In this series, feel free to pull up a chair, grab a plate, and join me in the In the Kitchen series where identity gets stirred, stories get served, and we all leave a little more full than we came in.
Thank you so much for listening. Hope to catch you in the next episode.
Be sure to find and follow Americanized on Instagram.
All original music produced by Stubborn Soul. You can find him on all music listening platforms at STBRNSAL.